What's up, y'all? Beck here from Teed Off Sports and teedoffsports.com. One of my favorite times of the year right here. It's tough because I like the cooler weather. So Christmas, Thanksgiving with football, college, and NFL, but that's always a top tier time for me. But now we still have a little bit of that coolness left around for my area in North Carolina. And then we've got college basketball going on with the NCAA tournament. We've got the Masters upcoming. We just came off of the Players Championship a week ago. So, man, it's this is a tough time to compete with as well. Speaking of that NCAA tournament, we got a bracket. I love them. And we've got first four games coming up here quickly. So we're going to jump in, and I'm going to walk you through my bracket selections here, starting in the top Eastern quadrant. We're doing this on ESPN just for the sake of it, but I will tell you, I'm really more of a paper pencil type bracket person. So I really have one stuck up on the fridge that may or may not resemble this one rather closely. But as I said, let's start top left. And we'll start with number 1, Duke, taking on number 16, Siena. I like the Blue Devils to advance here. They overcame a lot of injuries here the back half of the season. Pat Gongba, Foster both being out, still winning the ACC tournament. Jerry McNamara's team, they had a good run. I would like to think that Syracuse has taken a good, long, hard look at him for their available coaching job, but I like the Blue Devils to advance there. Ohio State, TCU, 8-9 matchup. I'll say, 100%. I have not watched a lot of Ohio State or TCU basketball this year, although I'm a big college basketball junkie. Neither of those two teams really are the ones that light candles for me. So I really don't have tons of experience here in an 8-9 matchup, and just the likelihood that upsets happen. We love them when they do, but it's less likely. So I'm going to take Ohio State there. The Johnnies have had a great season coming off the Big East tournament win, so I'll take St. John's to beat Northern Iowa. Kansas will advance against Cal Baptist. Louisville, South Florida. So this is where it gets a little interesting for me, because Louisville, I feel, has had a disappointing season. I know a lot has hinged on Michael Brown Jr., and I like Pat Kelsey as a coach, but I really actually feel like South Florida is going to advance here and get the upset. Michigan State, North Dakota State, tons of people I'm sure have thoughts there. I don't. I'm just going to take Michigan State to advance. UCLA, Mick Cronin's a nut, so I'll give him the nod here to beat UCF. UConn, I watched Furman first game of the season take on my beloved High Point University Panthers. And although Furman back half has had a better finish than it did start for the first half of the season, winning the Southern Conference tournament, I like the Huskies to advance there. Let's keep going down to the south portion of the bracket. We'll take the Florida Gators. Clemson, Iowa. Brad Brownell has been at Clemson, I feel like, for decades. And they just plug away. They're never that impressive, but I like them to beat the Iowa Hawkeyes here in this 8-9 matchup. I'll take Vandy to beat Ora Khan, who joined us on Teed Off the podcast over on teedoffsports.com. So if you want to hear his story going back to McNeese State, then that's there for you. Nebraska is going to beat Troy in a 4-13 matchup. UNC versus VCU. Yeah, sorry, Tar Heel fans. Caleb Wilson not being back for you is a big hurt. And Phil Martelli Jr. is he's taken Bryant. Now he's taking VCU. They just won the A10 tournament, so I like VCU to beat UNC and get the upset there. I'll take Illinois to win over Penn, St. Mary's to beat Texas A&M, and Houston to beat Idaho. As I work up the bracket now, starting in the Midwest region at the 15-2 game, Iowa State, Tennessee State, because I like working against the grain. We'll take Iowa State to advance there. Santa Clara and Kentucky. I feel like this is a tough choice because Mark Pope's team, it's been a disappointing year for them as well. I just don't know if it ends right here. I think so. So we'll take Santa Clara to get the upset. Virginia's going to beat Wright State, and Tennessee's going to beat whoever comes out of that play-in game between SMU and Miami of Ohio, although I hope that first four matchup Miami of Ohio as a mid-major wins it. Alabama is going to beat Hofstra, even though one of their players is in jail, or maybe he's bailed out at this point. Texas Tech and Akron. Texas Tech without Toppin is still a thing. Oh, man, I'm so tempted to take Akron here, and I can't remember on that bracket that I have on the fridge where I went. We're going to skip for just a second and go ahead and take St. Louis to beat Georgia and Michigan to beat Howard and UMBC. And before I go up to the top portion, I will go ahead and say that Texas Tech will beat Akron and get a win. Up in the West portion, as I continue to work upward, Queens is really not that good, so Purdue gets a win. Miami's had a great year out of the ACC, so they beat Missouri. Gonzaga is going to beat Kennesaw State. BYU is going to advance against whoever advances. Texas, NC State in that first four matchup. I think Will Wade's Wolfpack team will win, but they'll still lose to BYU. Arkansas is an easy pick over Hawaii. High Point right there, my boys. They advance, they surprise and shock the Wisconsin Badgers. I really think that is a legit upset pick. If Wisconsin misses some threes, I feel like that's going to be cemented there. And I'm going to go ahead and take Arizona over Long Island while I try to debate this Villanova-Utah State pick. It goes back to that Ohio State TCU commentary from before. 8-9 matchup here. I'll take Villanova just because I think upsets are hard, but I don't mind Utah State there in that selection. So as we bounce over to the east side of the bracket in the round of 32, Duke is going to beat Ohio State. Again, not tons of experience with the Buckeyes this year, and I like the Blue Devils going through different adversities. Darren Peterson and Kansas are going to beat St. John's. The Johnnies had a great run, but I think all that they had to go through in the Big East tournament is going to slow them up here finally. I like South Florida to upset 11 over a 3 and beat Michigan State to get to the the Sweet 16. We'll take UConn to beat Mick Cronin and the UCLA Bruins. Florida is going to easily beat Clemson. Vandy is going to advance over Nebraska. VCU is going to upset Illinois. And then Houston is going to beat St. Mary's in a 2-7 matchup. Over to Iowa State, and Santa Clara. I'll take Iowa State. Virginia is going to end Tennessee's up and down rocky season. I like Alabama to advance against Texas Tech despite not having one of their players, because neither do the Red Raiders, honestly. Michigan's going to beat St. Louis to put an end to Josh Schertz's run there for the year. Purdue is going to beat Miami. Gonzaga is going to beat A.J. DeBonsa and BYU. But the question I have is, does A.J. DeBonsa stay in college or does he go to the pros? Who knows? I am going to shock everybody, maybe not, and take High Point to beat Arkansas. And finally, Arizona to advance over Villanova. Back to the east side, I will take Duke, again, beating Kansas here. I'm hoping Pat Gongba's at least back. I don't think Foster will be, but, I like John Shire as a coach as well. Setting records already young into his career. UConn will beat South Florida. Going down the bracket, Florida will beat Vandy, as I'm sure they have in the SEC already this year without looking. Houston will finally beat VCU. Iowa State will beat Virginia, and Michigan will beat Alabama. Going up the bracket, Gonzaga will beat Purdue, and High Point's magical run in the NCAA tournament, sadly, will come to an end because I think Arizona would beat them. In these Elite Eight matchups here, Final Four, I should say. No, I was right. Elite Eight. ESPN's wonky bracket here, but it just makes it easy to screen record. I like Duke to beat UConn. I like Arizona to beat Gonzaga, Florida to beat Houston, and Michigan to beat Iowa State. So we've got a Duke, Florida, Arizona, Michigan Final Four in Indy, where I think Florida advances against the Blue Devils. I think Arizona will beat Michigan. I know Duke has had success over, I don't think all of these. I can't remember. Definitely two of the three here. But I still like Florida, Arizona, and Arizona is going to be my national champion. Excited for the tournament to get underway. Tell me where my picks went wrong. Share with me your national champion picks. We'll see how it all plays out with first 4 games starting, and definitely roll Thurs.